So here we want to get started with the very first syntax with Python. You can create a new folder and create a new file and name it hello-world.py. So here we want to do it with the command prompt or terminal or console or whatever your operating system calls it. But here we have a terminal on built-in terminal in the VSCode. So I'm going to write here in the terminal mk dir Python introduction, and so it's going to create a new folder called Python introduction. So we're going to change the directory of the terminal to Python introduction. So we write cd Python introduction. We're missing a C here. Introduction. Okay. So here we are on the Python introduction, and you can simply write code space dot in order to open the window related to that folder. So right here we have the folder, but we have no file. In order to file, you can either open the terminal and type touch the name of the file, .py. But if you don't have npm installed, which most of you might not have it installed, you can easily create a new file here and call it hello world.py. Just as simple as that. Here it's hello. I'm going to change it to hello anyway. Doesn't really matter. But here I can write touch hello world.py. It's going to do exactly the same. It's going to create a new file for me. Here, as you can see, this is hello world and this is hello world, and so it doesn't really matter which way you choose. But here, using touch, you can easily create a new file. Anyway, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to print something and see it on the terminal. To do so, we can easily write print parentheses, and inside that we have quotation mark or apostrophes. Doesn't really matter which one you choose. On Python 2 and 3, but there are different ways you can do this, but here whether you write the hello world on the inside the apostrophes or on the between the quotation marks, it's not gonna make a really big difference. So let's save the project and run it. In order to run it, we're going to write Python 3. I write Python 3 because we're on Linux, but if you're Windows, you can write Python. So notice that if you face an error based on the operating system you can simply change Python 3 to Python or vice versa. It doesn't really make a difference. So don't worry if you face an error, it's because of the Python or Python 3. So Python 3 hello world.py. And press enter. As you can see, we have hello world. So this is a very simple project. We've managed to create a file here, a Python file. We've managed to write a very simple syntax in Python. We have only printed a string called hello world. So let's see if we change the apostrophe to quotation mark and see what happens. So let's save this by pressing Ctrl S and run the command one more time. As you can see, the results are very much the same. Doesn't really make that much difference. And we've also learned that in order to run the code we have, you can simply write in the terminal or command prompt or console, whatever it is on your operating system. You can simply write the command related to running the file, the Python file, and also notice that we need to be in the directory of the file. So here we've also learned how to create a folder using the command prompt, also how to change the directory to the folders that that contains the files. And these commands are also going to be useful if you're learning other programming languages. Here we use it for Python, but you can use it for JavaScript, you can use it for any kind of programming language you're working with. Okay, anyway, that's it for the very first part of our Python tutorials. And in the next ones, we're going to cover, get deeper and cover more advanced parts, and that's it. So now in the next part, we're going to explain the syntax of Python in more details. So if you have noticed, in Python we have no semicolon. So if I, for example, write semicolon, let's see what happens. As you can see, it's not gonna make much difference whether you write semicolon or not. So here you can use semicolon, or you can refuse using it, but you don't need to do that, because it's not very common between the programmers to write semicolon at the end of each line in Python. But in other programming languages like JavaScript, like C, or other kind of programming languages, you might need to use semicolon. Also, the other thing is that, for example, if you are in the if statement or for statement, you need the indentations. So in some programming languages like C or JavaScript, it's not a very big deal, because you're using the semicolon and other kind of punctuations, or indentation marks. So the syntax there doesn't really require indentation. So what I mean by indentation is the space, so or tab you use after starting something, or for example a line of code. So imagine here we want to say that, for example, if something happens, for example, if name equals Muhammad, so if that happens, says hello world. Okay, so here I also need, okay, I need this, and so here, and the if here shouldn't be capital. Okay, right here we also need to define the name. So before the if, I need to define name equals Muhammad. And so let's save the code and see what happens. So as you can see here, I've defined the name as Muhammad, and if name is Muhammad, it's going to say hello world. So if, for example, here I write the name Jack and save the code, it's not going to show us anything. Okay, it's not going to say hello world, because the name is Jack. And okay, we're talking about syntax. If I don't have any indentation before the print and write it like this, as you can see, the VSCode shows the indentation error. Also, if you save the code and run it using the Python 3 hello world.py, it's going to show you the indentation error. It says expected an indented block before the print. And so in Python, it is very important to have the space before the before some of the scripts, the ones related to the if statement or for loops or while loops or functions. We're going to cover all of these later, but the kind of syntax we're going to use in Python might be a bit different from other programming languages if you have learned them recently.